I'd like to welcome you to the dedication and celebration of the Michael J. Shortsleeve, MD, Magnetic Resonance Imaging Center. This is a very, very special occasion for us and for you. I'd like to welcome you to Mount Auburn and just say that we're thrilled that you're here. The heat didn't get us. We made the decision yesterday to move in, and our staff took out the tables and put in the chairs. So we're happy to have this event today, and couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier for sure to have a moment of our lives to really celebrate Mike and all he has meant to me, to you, and to all of us. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Charles Hayden, MD. Dr. Hayden was a primary care physician here at Mount Auburn for many years before he moved to the role of the head of our medical education programs here at Mount Auburn. And in that role, he excelled and became the Harold Amos Professor of Medical Education from Harvard Medical School. But I guess you would say that aside from all those accolades, he's a wonderful man and a wonderful guy. So Dr. Hayden, please come forward.
17,896 days ago. That's an exact number. One Michael Joseph Shortsleeve, MD, a newly minted intern, started his career at Mount Auburn Hospital. And we're here today to acknowledge his subsequent impactful professional accomplishments. I would note on that very first day, July the 1st, 1972, that young Dr. Shortsleeve was informed by a faculty member of the Department of Medicine responsible for intern scheduling, that would have been me, that he would be on overnight duty on that day. This led to Michael's calling his good wife, Kathy, to say he was not going to be home for supper. And it also produced a felt compulsion to repeat that story of having been assigned to work that very first night of internship by me countless times over the ensuing years, usually when I'm in earshot. So, Michael, I know there are some things that one can't just let go, but really. That said, let's note that Michael's professional roots come from two different important sources. The first lineage, prior to coming to the Mount, begins at the College of the Holy Cross. Actually, it begins at Boston College High School. Let me say those words again, Boston College High School. And then to Holy Cross, from which I might add, Dr. Fauci graduated in 1962 with an AB in Classics, thereby presaging the very same degree that you would have gotten in 1968. It's also relevant to note that within that particular collegiate experience, Michael was an All-American in rugby, and that reality, in that reality, he experienced repeated head trauma, no doubt. But fortunately for us, it did not dissuade him from continuing to move towards a career in medicine, which he had long since anticipated. Studied at Dartmouth and then at Hopkins, and then on to internship. And Dr. Philip Tumulty at Hopkins, a renowned and well-known professor of medicine, wrote a letter of recommendation for Michael for his internship, in which he said, "We all have a great deal of admiration for him as a student and as a person. He has everything it takes to be a successful clinician, and his career, I believe, will be an outstanding one." Dr. Ron Arkey, who is chairman of medicine here for 20 plus years, looked at that prescient judgment of Dr. Tumulty's and really corroborated it at the end of your internship when he judged that work to have been superior. And Ron went on to note that it was the opinion of the senior staff that you had manifested all of the finest traits of a physician. So that's lineage number one. This leads us to the story of lineage number two, which began in 1947 when the Mount Auburn Department of Medicine was founded, courtesy of the efforts of Dr. Richard Schatzky. Dr. Richard left Germany in 1933. He arrived in the United States without a position, and he was able to survive courtesy of a small stipend that was given to displaced scholars. And according to a biographical sketch by his good son, Dr. Stefan Schatzky, Dr. Richard, though he was a German native and freed of any obligation to serve in the United States Armed Forces, after a great deal of effort, convinced the Army to accept him. And he subsequently mustered out as lieutenant colonel, giving testimony to those contributions. The vignette I share with you is telling because it reveals both a sense of duty as well as a sense of obligation to engage in a cause bigger than oneself. Those core beliefs also lie at the heart of the care of the patient and a commitment to something bigger than oneself. And I would say that it was really a very central element in fashioning the cultural framework that has been imprinted in this department of radiology. Moreover, Dr. Richard's philosophy of medicine began with the understanding, and now these are his words, that radiology is only part of the equipment of diagnosis. It's only part. And in fact, I understand Dr. Richard to have been the last known radiologist in North America to carry a stethoscope and to use it and to know how to use it, which I think was a tribute to his internal medicine beginnings, a plug for primary care. Dr. Richard was widely acknowledged to be one of the truly important leaders in clinical radiology in the United States. And to the Mount Auburn's great benefit and reputation, he created an outstanding diagnostic radiology training program here, and he put the Mount on the map, not simply as a community hospital, but as a Harvard teaching institution. So given that framework, enter the good Dr. Shortsleeve, who trained in radiology at the MGH after his internship here, returned to the Mount in 1976, ultimately coming to succeed another outstanding clinician, Dr. Stefan Schatzky, and Michael served as chair until July of 2019 when it passed to the current most capable leadership of Pierre Sasson. Michael, as all the Mount Auburn chairs of radiology have done, practiced in and led a department which not only employed the latest in equipment, but more importantly, was centrally committed to the care of patients. And it functioned in the most integrated way as a clinical colleague and as an available expert consultant. And Mike's contributions to the Mount go far beyond his expertise as a diagnostic radiologist. He provided outstanding leadership in a busy and vital department. He made contributions to the radiology literature, and he left a legacy of superb training for the young radiologists who came here and followed. Michael, in the same tradition as Dr. Richard, not only committed himself to particular expertise in GI radiology, but that of a commitment to goals beyond self-interest by providing highly effective leadership in stimulating philanthropic giving amongst his colleagues and others to the great benefit of this institution and to the communities it serves. So we're here to acknowledge the great good work of the kid from Newton who made his way to Cambridge. We're here to acknowledge how appropriate it is for his name to be preserved in a department and a hospital that he has given and continues to give so much to. So, Michael Shortsleeve, Mount Auburn intern class of 1972, you've done most well. And for the record, and to bring a sense of justice and balance to the universe, I am most pleased to tell you you're not on call tonight.
I appreciate that.
Stay well, Michael, stay well. With that preamble, I'm pleased to introduce the current chair of the Department of Radiology, Pierre Sasson. Pierre served many years here, both in an assistant chair capacity for more than 2 decades as the director of the radiology training program. But he too embodies this sense of being a superb clinical colleague, of being available, and a wonderful sense of equanimity, which God knows one needs in this particular rotation of patient care and in the challenges of leading a department. Pierre, it's a pleasure to introduce you. Dr. Cecil.
So early in 2018, I sat down with Mike and I told him that our reliable GE 1.5 Tesla scanner that had provided over 10 years of outstanding service to our hospital was reaching the end of the race. I told him that the newer machines they were faster than the old machine. They surpassed her in speed and diagnostic bells and whistles. Now, one of the valuable characteristics about General Electric MRI machines is that they're upgradable. So the conventional thing would be to say, let's upgrade the scanner soup to nuts. We'll replace her CPU, we'll replace her gradients, we'll put her on a new platform and squeeze out a couple more years of good use for the Mount Auburn. But Mike thinks big, Mike thinks different, and he always has. He leaned forward and he said, what if, and I knew immediately that whatever happened after that was going to cost Jeanette a lot of money. He said, what if we replace the old scanner with 2 brand new state-of-the-art MRI scanners, one of which will be a 3 Tesla high field strength scanner. And he said, that will make the neurons happy. Mike calls neurologists neurons, so apologies if there are any neurologists in the room. We'll replace the old one with 2 new scanners, a 3 Tesla scanner and a 1.5 Tesla scanner that'll be the workhorse for the department. And then we'll put all that equipment in a brand new state-of-the-art center on the ground floor of the Wyman building where the old intensive care unit used to be. Then we'll replace our old CT scanner with a brand new Siemens Force dual energy CT scanner and put that scanner where the old MRI scanner was. Well, that was the plan. And with sheer force of will and the very generous support of our president, Jeanette Clow, that plan came to fruition in March of 2019. And on March 15th, we opened the doors and started scanning patients in our state-of-the-art high-quality imaging center downstairs on the Wyman ground floor. Though the creation of the MRI Center at Mount Auburn Hospital was a remarkable accomplishment, Mike's career has been earmarked with multiple such achievements. Under Mike's leadership, we were one of the first hospitals in North America to have direct digital radiography. I'm going to say that again. One of the first hospitals in North America to offer direct digital radiography, which is the standard across the country right now. We were also one of the first hospitals to offer low-dose CT scanning. That was something very important to Mike and always has been important to Mike, reducing the dose of the radiation that we have to provide to patients. So other accomplishments including starting breast MRI here and multiple other achievements. For nearly 50 years, Dr. Shortsleeve has embodied excellence with compassion at the Mount. Mike did his internship year here in 1972, as Charlie said, spent a couple years at another hospital down the river, and came back in 1976. And when Mike rejoined the Mount Auburn, it was clear that he was a natural teacher. He soon took over the radiology residency program and ran it for 18 years. I'm one of his former residents. Mike served as chair of the department for 21 years. In addition to his many contributions to radiology, the radiology department at Mount Auburn, radiology practice in general, and resident and medical student education, Dr. Shortsleeve has dedicated himself to advancing the culture, growth, and philanthropic goals of the Mount Auburn. Mike serves on the board of trustees. He's co-chair of the hospital's Current Here for You campaign, and he's one of the co-founders of the Physicians Leadership Circle. Mike, I offer you my heartiest congratulations, and I can't say how incredibly proud I am to be able to work in the Michael Shortsleeve MRI Center every single day. Thank you.
It really is an honor to be asked to talk about Mike because there's so much to say. You don't have to stretch it. You don't have to reach for it. It's sitting right in front of you, just as Mike is today. Mike has been a true leader, and his presence has been felt throughout the medical staff, not just in the hospital, but indeed throughout the world of radiology and throughout our Mount Auburn world as well. Mike, of course, has brought us accolades and notoriety for his leadership in radiology. He participates as an examiner on a national level. Radiology is one of our only 2 ACGME accredited residency programs, and his entire department has a deep commitment to our program. Our partnerships in radiology, under Mike's leadership, with Mass General, Beth Israel Lahey, Harvard University Health Systems, MIT, and other medical organizations have all flourished under Mike's tenure. The program's strengths and reputation make it a highly sought match, and indeed each clinical area and subspecialty area of radiology has grown with Mike at the helm, and most importantly, in his eyes and in mine, it has advanced the patient experience, the clinical care of our patients, and the education of our students. But Mike's leadership has extended far beyond his own clinical department. Let me tell you more. In 1998, Mike was a new leader at Mount Auburn. His spirit and dedication to the hospital was already quite clear, and he was making noise about that first night on call. At the time, tensions were high inside the Mount between the administration and the medical staff. This was playing out against a backdrop of a rapidly changing healthcare system when many hospitals were facing closure and restructuring. It was into this environment that I arrived, fresh from my old role as the CEO and ready to move Mount Auburn forward. At our very first meeting, it didn't take long for both of us to realize that we needed each other's support and each other's leadership. We quickly realized that through our collaboration, we could bring success back to Mount Auburn and continue the long-standing commitment of our medical staff and employees to excellence with compassion. We saw that we could also collaborate on fundraising, with funds raised going to underwrite the clinical equipment and programs that would benefit both the hospital and the medical staff. I have to say, it became a very proud and successful partnership that's cost me a lot of money, but it's touched so many clinical projects and programs, but probably best exemplified by the PLC, the Physicians Leadership Circle, which is the annual dinner and celebration that we have to acknowledge the accomplishments and friendships of our medical staff and their CEO. With an ever-present spirit, unbridled enthusiasm, and dedication to purpose, Mike has changed our organization for decades to come. Many staff and residents will follow in the footsteps and the collaborative nature that we conduct business here at the Mount. His devotion to the Mount is evident every day and every year, and is probably best exemplified this year, as Pierre pointed out, to chair our development committee. So we're still raising money, which will help us build a much-needed new emergency department. No small ticket. It's about an $18 to $20 million request, and yet we're working at it, chipping away, and again, thanks to Mike's leadership. We came together as two leaders who needed each other and who always had a strong, consistent, and overriding focus on the patient. We still have no time for distractions or tensions that take our efforts away from growing and strengthening our staff and our purpose. So, Michael, congratulations to you, and thank you for being a true colleague and leader. We are deeply grateful for your service and wish you and your family, growing as it is, the best of health and happiness in the years to come. Thank you, Michael.
I am deeply honored by this dedication. I would like to express my appreciation to a few people. First and foremost, to my lifelong companion and best friend, Kathy Finnegan. We just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary this month. How's that, huh? You know the saying, behind every successful man, there's a more successful woman? Well, that's my case 110%. I'd like to thank Brother Hayden and Ron Arkey for taking me into the Mount Auburn family as a medical intern back in the early 70s. I'd like to thank all the nurses, all the technologists, all the doctors, all the administrators with whom I've had the pleasure to share our work as a team. I've worked with more than 50 radiologists over the course of my career, and I will mention only a few out of time constraints. And I'd like to start with the Shotskys. I want to thank Richard Shotsky and Stefan Shotsky for rescuing me from the Mass General, where I was offered a job at the end of my residency. And they came in with a counteroffer, and I'm glad I took it. When I got to the Mount, my work was heavy in fluoroscopy, which is examination of the GI tract, esophagus, stomach, etc. And it just turns out that that was Richard Shotsky's strong point. So I started the fluoro schedule the first day. I did all the exams. And then about midway through the day, the attending physicians came down and picked up my films and took them over to Richard. And they said, "Now, Richard, what does this exam show?" And I stood in the back and I watched as Richard interpreted my work. And I learned a lot very quickly the first day. And I wrote some pretty sophisticated reports for someone just out of residency, because we did this every day for 10 years. Next, I'd like to thank Phil Rogoff for his support and his friendship. Phil and I were office mates. Phil was neat and tidy. I was not. The problem was we shared one desk. Phil solved the problem. He put a piece of white tape right down the middle of the desk, and he bought a fierce-looking bulldog who sat on Philip's side of the tape and viewed my desk from behind the tape curtain. I think this bulldog probably preserved our friendship. Now, in Phil's spare time, when he wasn't taking care of me, he built the best interventional radiology service in the entire Harvard medical system. And you know, there are some pretty good competitors in that system. And that service runs today at the same high level that Philip set it up, with Jeremy Schiller, Ralph Reichley, and Don Romanelli taking care of the patients. I'd like to thank Ed Marianacci for his support and teaching me musculoskeletal radiology every day. If I had it to do over again, Ed, I might go do a MSK with you. And I'd like to thank 4 of our all-star former residents who chose to join the Shotsky Radiology faculty: Layla Korashati, Jody Cushing, Alex Hefferson, and Rich Goldenson, who have all made significant contributions to our patients. I'd like to thank Audrey Fasora for upgrading the Hoffman Breast Center to the high level of care that we give today. And I'd like to thank Caitlin Conley for the critical work she's done in nuclear medicine. Nuclear medicine is going to undergo quite a growth from the biotech revolution. And the nuclear medicine division is going to become one of the most important divisions in the hospital of tomorrow. And we're lucky we've got Caitlin at the helm. I'd like to thank Don Romanelli for his dedicated leadership to the radiology residency program. You can't talk about radiology education at the Mount Auburn without acknowledging Paul Dratch's significant contributions over 4 decades. I'd like to thank Pierre Sasson for his outstanding leadership in the radiology department. Pierre took over and I finished at a time when I was so glad I was done. Pierre got killed. His first week as chair, there was a complete blackout, electrical blackout in West Cambridge. And can you imagine running a radiology department with no electricity? Well, he did. This was followed by a surprise announcement from Philips X-ray. They did a recall of all their nuclear medicine machines worldwide for safety reasons. And most of our equipment was Philips equipment. So Pierre scavenged around. He got us the equipment. We didn't miss a beat. And we're taking care of our patients the next day. When we thought things had settled down, we got hit with a ransom attack and disabled all of our computers. And radiology is very computer. I mean, everything is computer driven. Now, if that wasn't enough, near the end of that fall, COVID-19 hit. And so by the time he's been chair for less than a year, he's had to deal with all these things, none of which I ever had to deal with in 21 years. But he powered through it as we knew he would. I think Pierre may be bulletproof. Now, I want to give a special thank you to the members of the Development and the Philanthropy Office, Dinny Buston, Martin Richmond, Colin McLaren, Barry Russell, Meg Wilson, Rob Joaquim. This team of 6 has raised over $18 million to build our new emergency room in conjunction with a few of us who get people to contribute. Now, lastly, I'd like to say a sincere thank you to Jeanette Clow. She guided our ship for 23 years. She created the first all-private room hospital in the Commonwealth. And this was a godsend when COVID hit. She has put the best diagnostic equipment across the hospital: surgery, cardiology, radiology. And Jeanette did tell me once that I was her most expensive department chair. But many of you are Mount Auburn patients, and you know you're going to get the lowest dose, safest radiology exams in Greater Boston. So thank God for Jeanette Clow. It's going to be the Jeanette Clow era. And you know, when they talk about eras, it's kind of like Brady and the Patriots. Listen, I want to thank each of you for coming today. And I want to thank you for your philanthropic support of the hospital. Your support directly benefits all of our patients. Thank you. How's that? It's a great center. I hope you never have to use it.